Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the possibility of a Whitmer-Harris ticket. So I've seen a lot of excitement on social media about the possibility of Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer endorsing and partnering with Harris on the Democratic ticket for this election. But sorry, not sorry, that's not going to happen. She has put her foot down and said that she's not leaving her gubernatorial post and she's not going to be joining Harris on the Democratic ticket this year. And we're going to be examining what this means overall for the election and if Whitmer's decision of not joining Harris is telling about the election results. So a bit of background: in 2020, Biden won Michigan by around 3 points or so, but Gretchen Whitmer in 2022 won her gubernatorial race in Michigan by 11 points. That's astounding in Michigan, which is a very consistent swing state. 2020 went to Biden, 2016 to Trump, 2008 to Obama. It's been a swing state for quite a while now, and Gretchen Whitmer was able to consolidate enough support in the state to win her 11 points, an astounding lead in a swing state like Michigan. But she's not going to be joining Harris on the presidential campaign. Why? Well, she says that she's very committed to her state, and I don't doubt that because she's a very great governor and Michigan people love her very much. But I feel like it's also because she knows that Kamala Harris is going to lose. She herself is very ambitious. She has never, from local to state elections, she has never lost an election. And so she does not want to ruin that streak. She's a very good candidate that is going to be eyeing the presidency, already is, in 2028, 2032. So she doesn't want to ruin her chances by partnering up with Harris, who she thinks is going to lose this election. It's very telling, I believe, because the VP slot, as people in politics know, is an amazing step for a person to take, right? The VP step is automatically going to get you into the primary very far, like Joe Biden did, like many other vice presidents throughout history did. A lot of presidents were previously vice presidents, and so why wouldn't she want to take this spot? Because if they won and Kamala did another 4 years after that, then she would be on the track to be the president for the next 8 years after that. So why wouldn't she have this role? Well, I think it's because she foresees Kamala Harris losing this election no matter who her VP is. And this is a tremendous loss for Democrats because winning Michigan would be great for them. If Gretchen Whitmer were on the ticket, we can pretty much presume that Michigan would go to Democrats. That would be blue. And they could possibly consolidate the blue wall, which is Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, which would put them in a very strong lead for the 270 electoral votes needed. They could possibly also win Virginia, which isn't typically or historically a swing state, but just is during this election because President Biden was so low in polling. So Virginia, and then they win, right? That's all that's needed if Gretchen Whitmer were to join Harris on the ticket, but she's not. Looking at polling, this makes sense from Gretchen Whitmer, right? I checked this just yesterday. Trump was up 1.9, so Kamala Harris has gone up and closed the gap, but we also have to keep in mind that she just announced her candidacy on Sunday. This is still the honeymoon phase of a candidate where they're new, they're fresh, their previous scandals haven't really caught up to them, their record as a politician hasn't caught up to them, and of course she ran in 2019 as well for the 2020 election, and a lot of things were exposed then, so not as much baggage to be exposed now, but still her record as vice president, what has she done for the country? Has she lived up to the things that she wanted to do as president in 2020, partly as role as VP, and the tasks that President Biden allocated to her, like being the border czar? Has she lived up to that? Those are all things that the Republicans are going to attack her on, and she needs to live up to that. This is a pretty good gap. Previously, the RCP average showed about Trump up 4 with a Trump-Biden matchup, and so she's doing better than Biden did, but still, this is the honeymoon phase. We need to keep track of that. Looking at the polling, which is what Gretchen Whitmer was probably looking at when making her decision, it doesn't seem like Harris is going to be catching up to Trump in any of these swing states. So, just going down the list, I guess, in Arizona, Trump has a solid lead in pretty much every poll. It doesn't seem like Harris is going to be able to win that either way. One of the other vice presidential picks, Mark Kelly, who is a senator from Arizona, a very loved senator from Arizona, he could possibly narrow this gap, but even him being on the ticket isn't probably going to sway a majority of these voters, right? Arizona is a swing state. They've suffered from a lot of the immigration discontent over this past year or so, and so they're going to be voting Trump, it seems like, at this point in time, unless there is a massive shift in the zeitgeist. Next is Georgia. Now, this is very interesting because obviously Kamala Harris is a woman of color. About a third of Georgia's population is African American, and so they could possibly do better than Biden did. But also, it's important to keep in note that just color doesn't get you all the way. We saw in 2020, black voters voted 92% for Biden, 8% for Trump. In recent polling, though this is before Sunday, when Biden dropped out, it was 21% for Trump. He made a massive move, up 13% with African American voters, and we can assume that that is going to be representative in Georgia as well. And so it's harder to consolidate those black voters after they've suffered from 4 years under Biden, or not as content with his presidency as they presume they would be. Additionally, Stacey Abrams, if we remember her in 2020 or 2022, I believe, she ran for the gubernatorial race in Georgia. She's a black woman herself, and she lost, right? It's not just color that gets people elected. And so it's very important to note that Stacey Abrams wasn't able to win in Georgia. Kamala Harris probably won't be able to either, right? The polls are slightly nicer to her than in Arizona, but still pretty rough, and she'll have to do some massive work in the Sun Belt to gain that. But I think the best move for Democrats at this point is to secure the Rust Belt, not the Sun Belt. Going for Nevada, Arizona, Georgia is going to be very risky. I think rather Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin would be much safer, because these are the states that, as we'll see in polling, are much closer and in their reach than are the Sun Belt states. So Michigan, like we just talked about, in the Rust Belt, but Harris is up in one poll, but then in the other two polls, Trump is up. But this is still very much in the margin of error. They're very close to each other, cancel each other out. And so Michigan is a state that they really need to campaign in, work on. Gretchen Whitmer isn't going to be on the ticket, but she has still endorsed Harris. So with her help, they could possibly win Michigan. So that's a state to keep an eye on. And so far, just like mapping this out as the polls we've seen thus far, I think that Michigan would probably be a toss-up. We can keep it as that. But if we want to be kind to Democrats, then a very, very, very low possibility of Kamala winning that state. Next is Nevada. Again, Trump winning that state, obviously. Again, similar Sun Belt. They seem to be very friendly with him this time around. Also, something surprising to note is that Nevada usually votes to the left of Arizona, and in these polls that doesn't seem to be mirrored. So that's interesting to note. Maybe we're seeing a shift that we'll see in future elections as well. North Carolina, this isn't surprising as well. In the last few elections, North Carolina has gone to Republicans, not since 2008 has it gone to Democrats, so that's important to note as well. So North Carolina, and then Trump is almost at the 270. If he wins either Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, or Virginia, then he's going to win. In Michigan, we just that was very kind, a giveaway to Kamala, right? If he were to win that as well, then he'd just win this race outright. And then looking at the rest of the states, we're going to see that Trump wins Pennsylvania, Trump wins, or it's a tie, so we could also try to be kind to Kamala and give that to her. And then Wisconsin as well. Not as much of a lead in many of these polls, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are all in the margin of error, but Trump 8 in the morning consult says a lot that we have to keep in mind. So that was Wisconsin, I believe. So that would be Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. Again, if we're going to be kind, I guess I would make the solid blue because this is reflecting the electoral map. So Trump wins. But if we were to go just based off the polling in most of these states, right, Trump wins these states as well because it's just raw polling numbers, and he gets 325, which is astronomical, right? That's insane that he would win that much. Biden didn't even win that much in 2020, right? In 2016, still not that far off. And so this is really crazy on this end to see Biden or Trump at this high of an electoral count, 325, that we haven't seen in quite a while. 2008 with Barack Obama, who was a very historical candidate. Hasn't happened since then. And with Trump on a second time around, he's going to be making history in more ways than one. So Gretchen Whitmer, she's seeing these polling numbers. She does not want to be part of this losing team. She does not want to ruin her legacy as a loser. And then certainly if you lose on one campaign trail, you're not going to run again, right? In 2016, Hillary and her VP pick was Tim Kaine. Tim Kaine has not since run for any higher office, has just remained in his role as senator. He didn't try to go in the presidential route in 2020 because if you lose as the VP, how are you going to lose as the president, right? That doesn't work that way. And so she does not want to risk it at all. And from her not wanting to join Harris, we can tell that this is very telling about the election was what she, as a career politician, and with all the advisors and political people around her, she knows that this isn't going to work out in Kamala's favor, and they'll have to do some serious work, preferably in the Rust Belt region, to win that 270 and beat Donald Trump. So that's been this video. Thank you for watching, and let me know what your thoughts are on this election below.